welcome to Auto News Talk. I want you to imagine something for a second. Imagine spending an absolute fortune to build just the ultimate, pristine mega dealership right in the heart of Beverly Hills.
Oh, the dream scenario, right.
Exactly. You've mastered your regional real estate. You've, finally sourced the exact high-efficiency vehicles the market is begging for. Your service bays are completely immaculate.
Right.
And then you realize you can't service a single one of those high-end cars.
I do the oil.
Because a geopolitical conflict thousands of miles away means you literally cannot buy the engine oil required to keep them running.
Yeah, it's wild.
If you are trying to navigate the auto industry in the modern landscape, you already know that the old models of success are just completely fracturing. We are looking at this massive structural shift that hits, every single invisible thread of the business.
It really is an entirely new map. To understand the scale of what is happening, we sort of have to look at the entire ecosystem as one connected journey. So here is the train we are walking through. We're going to start at the macro level, looking at how the absolute biggest dealership networks are aggressively redrawing their physical footprints.
Which is fascinating on its own.
Right, but then from there, we will actually walk onto the showroom floor to uncover this massive shift in what consumers are actually driving off a lot.
The actual cars.
Exactly. And finally, we will step into the back of the house, the global supply chain, to expose some severe bottlenecks that are quietly threatening to just paralyze both the dealers and the buyers.
I want to start with that real estate footprint because for decades, the dealership model felt very scattered.
Yeah, very decentralized.
Right, like a super localized approach. You plant a flag in every single suburb you can find, and you just hope volume takes care of the rest.
The old be everywhere strategy.
Exactly. But it feels like the industry is totally abandoning that for something much more centralized. It kind of reminds me of the tech industry's shift to cloud computing.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
Instead of everyone having their own, inefficient localized server in a closet, companies move to massive, hyper-efficient regional data centers.
That cloud computing metaphor is incredibly accurate for what is happening on the asphalt right now. We are seeing an era of hyper-focused, mega-scale strategic hubs.
So how does that actually play out in the real world?
Well, there is a transaction analysis report that covers Group 1 Automotive.
Okay.
They are a massive player, obviously. And they made what looks, at least on the surface, like a very counterintuitive move. They divested their Beverly Hills Mercedes-Benz store, selling it to the Fletcher Automotive Group.
Wait, Beverly Hills Mercedes?
Yeah.
That is a crown jewel property. If you own that, you basically print money. Why on earth would you willingly hand that over to a competitor?
It completely comes down to the brutal mathematics of scale. The central insight driving this report is that massive dealer groups are actively divesting in highly lucrative but isolated markets so they can double down and leverage overwhelming scale in their core regions.
Oh, so they are sacrificing a good piece to win the board.
Exactly. Group 1 had gone through a period of heavy luxury expansion, but now they are really sharpening their focus. By shedding an outlier property, even a great one, they can consolidate their operations elsewhere.
And what does Fletcher Jones get out of it?
Total market dominance. They already operate multiple stores in Southern California and heavily market themselves as a premier destination for Mercedes and Audi.
Right, you hear their ads all the time.
Exactly. By absorbing the Beverly Hills location, they aren't just adding a store, they are eliminating a major competitor right in their backyard.
Which gives them incredible pricing power.
That, and it allows them to pool their inventory, share massive regional marketing budgets, and move vehicles between lots in minutes rather than days. There is actually a great detail from the advisory firm that handled this, the Presidio Group.
What did they say?
They noted this was their 23rd transaction involving just Mercedes-Benz stores.
23 transactions for a single luxury brand. That implies an incredibly aggressive shuffle behind the scenes.
Oh, absolutely. They want complete control of specific concentrated zones. Both Group 1 and Fletcher Jones went out of their way to emphasize the continuity of customer service, but behind the curtain, it is all about margin protection.
It's like playing Monopoly, right?
Yeah.
But instead of just trying to buy every property you land on, you are happily trading away Boardwalk just to ensure you completely monopolize all the railroads in your target zone.
That is exactly it.
But there has to be a missing piece to this puzzle. If Group 1 is dumping a marquee asset like Beverly Hills, they were sitting on a massive influx of capital. Do we know what they are actually buying with it to reinforce those core markets?
See, what this doesn't answer is exactly how Group 1 plans to redeploy that capital. The reporting tracks the sale perfectly, but it leaves open the question of the specific acquisition targets or internal investments they are eyeing. Those remain completely undefined.
So we know they are retreating to build a fortress, we just don't know where they are pouring the concrete. And this consolidation, I assume this isn't just an American strategy, is it?
Not at all. If we cross the Atlantic, a breakdown of the UK auto retail sector shows the exact same philosophy, just executed with a slightly different blueprint.
Okay, what does that look like?
We are looking at Evans Halshaw, acquiring the Stellantis and EU operations in Newport, South Wales.
Are they also just buying out the competitor next door?
They are taking it a step further. They are building a multi-brand megasite.
A megasite?
Yeah. They are taking Citroën, Peugeot, and Vauxhall and consolidating all of them into one expanded destination at the Newport Retail Park.
Oh, wow.
They have even secured adjacent land for capacity expansion. Steve Spicer, he's a VP over at Lithia UK, which is driving this broader strategy. He frames it as investing in a highly compelling retail environment.
Let's unpack the mechanics of that. I mean, from a consumer perspective, it makes total sense. I don't want to drive across town to compare a Peugeot and a Vauxhall.
Right, you want to cross-shop on one lot.
Exactly. But from the dealer side, why take on the massive overhead of an entire retail park?
Because the back-office efficiency is staggering. When you put 6 brands under one roof, you don't need 6 HR departments.
Whoa, right.
You don't need 6 distinct payroll systems. You combine your service bays, so if the Citroën technicians are slow on a Tuesday, they can just pick up overflow work from the Vauxhall side.
That is incredibly efficient.
And the most fascinating detail from this UK expansion is that they aren't stopping at legacy European brands. Lithia UK is actively prepping these megasites for emerging brands like Chery, Omoda, and Jiku.
So they are building a literal fortress of automotive choice.
Yes.
But I have to imagine zoning, construction, and brand approvals for a site that complex take years. Do we have a sense of the timeline?
We don't. What this doesn't answer is the actual financial terms of the deal or the specific completion timeline for when this megasite will be fully transitioned and operational.
Okay, so dealers are aggressively optimizing their physical real estate. They're moving from localized scattered lots to these hyper-efficient cloud computing style megasites. But that brings us to a massive variable. You can build the perfect retail park, but you still have to stock it with what the consumer actually wants to buy.
Which has been a bit of a moving target.
To put it mildly, for the last few years, the boardroom mandate has been very clear. Everyone needs massive electric vehicles and heavy SUVs.
That has definitely been the dominant narrative. But when you look at a specific data set analyzing Honda and Toyota's retail demand mix, the consumers are throwing a massive curveball at those industry expectations.
What are they buying instead?
Sedans.
Really?
Yeah. After years of watching market share bleed out to light trucks and SUVs, there is a renewed, sustained retail demand for passenger cars. And the central insight here is that it is being driven incredibly hard by hybrid options.
I want to challenge the framing on that just a bit. Are buyers actively having an ideological rejection of the EV future like we see with the Honda Prologue EV dropping over 18%? Or are they just looking for a familiar, affordable sedan shape that just happens to have a great hybrid engine?
The data strongly suggests it is pure pragmatism. Think about the physics of an SUV.
Okay.
It is essentially a giant brick fighting the wind.
Right.
That aerodynamic drag severely limits efficiency. A traditional sedan shape slices through the air, which maximizes the battery range of a hybrid engine.
That makes sense.
Consumers are seeking that ultimate fuel efficiency, but they want it without the lifestyle changes and the charging infrastructure anxiety of a full EV.
And what do the actual sales figures look like for these sedans?
The numbers are stark. The Honda Accord surged an incredible 42% year over year in a single month.
42%.
Yes. Compare that to Honda's larger light trucks in that same window. The Odyssey dropped 23% and the Ridgeline fell 15.7%.
Wow, that is a massive swing.
Toyota is seeing a similar bump, with the Camry posting notable gains as well.
Wait, if they want a hybrid, why not just buy a Prius? I mean, that is the undisputed king of that category.
This is where the consumer psychology gets super interesting. The data shows Toyota shoppers are actively cross-shopping the Camry over the Prius. Really?
Yes, they want the hybrid efficiency, but they want the familiar, traditional sort of inconspicuous shape of a standard passenger car. They are exhausted by the look at me, I'm driving a spaceship aesthetic.
That makes a lot of sense. The sedan is affordable, it's aerodynamic, and it doesn't force you to map out charging stations on a road trip.
Exactly.
But is this just a Japanese automaker phenomenon? Because Honda and Toyota have always been the masters of the sedan. Is Detroit seeing this same shift?
That is a great question. And what this doesn't answer is whether this sedan resurgence is isolated to these specific Japanese automakers, or if brands from Detroit, South Korea, and Europe are experiencing that exact same shift.
Right, because Detroit basically stopped making sedans.
Exactly.
Still, if I am a dealer staring at a lot full of heavy, expensive electric SUVs, that Honda Accord data is absolutely terrifying.
It should be.
But let's take this a step further. Let's say you master the real estate. You build the perfect Lithia UK-style megasite. You stock it full of highly efficient, aerodynamic hybrid sedans. It sounds like a perfect system.
Yeah.
In theory.
Right. So where does it break?
It breaks at the international border. An auto dealership does not exist in a vacuum. It is entirely at the mercy of global supply chains and geopolitics.
Oh, boy.
And right now, there are two massive, invisible bottlenecks threatening the entire ecosystem. The first comes from an analysis of proposed geopolitical trade policies, specifically a 25% tariff hike on European Union cars and trucks.
25%?
Yeah.
I mean, on a luxury European vehicle, that fundamentally changes the financial math for a buyer. How does that actually work mechanically? Does every single car with a German badge just get hit with that?
There is a critical distinction in the policy proposal. The tariff would exempt EU-branded vehicles that are built in U.S. plants.
Oh, okay.
So a BMW manufactured in South Carolina avoids the penalty. But major brands like Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and Volkswagen are wildly exposed to significantly higher landed costs for their imported models.
Which completely scrambles the inventory strategy for a dealer.
Absolutely. And it isn't just finished vehicles rolling off a boat. The analysis highlights that this would heavily impact the flow of parts for engines, electronics, and aftermarket channels right before peak selling seasons.
So even if I bought my car 3 years ago, my service bill could spike simply because the replacement alternator crossed the wrong ocean?
Exactly.
But can an administration actually just snap its fingers and impose a 25% tariff across the board like that?
That is where the legal mechanics get incredibly messy, and it is a fascinating detail in the reporting. The Supreme Court previously ruled on the IEPA statute. That's the International Emergency Economic Powers Act.
Okay.
They explicitly ruled that this statute does not authorize the president to impose tariffs.
Wow. So the judicial branch effectively stripped away one of the easiest tools to enforce a reciprocal tariff strategy.
They completely gutted it, which means the legal pathway to actually execute this 25% hike is totally unclear. What this doesn't answer is what specific legal authority the administration will lean on to actually enforce this.
So they might try to invoke Section 232 or something.
Maybe, but the industry is bracing for massive material price hikes while the actual enforcement mechanism is a total mystery.
So luxury imports are hanging by a legal thread. But earlier, you mentioned a bottleneck regarding engine oil.
Yes.
It is one thing to have parts delayed by a tariff, but oil is the literal lifeblood of the service department.
And that lifeblood is drying up. A different report digging into the global commodity markets reveals a severe lubricant supply squeeze.
How severe?
Geopolitical conflicts and facility outages are creating a critical shortage of Group 3 and Group 4 base oils.
Let's pause there, because I think most people take engine oil for granted. You pull up to the service bay, they pump it from a drum, and you drive away.
Right.
Why can't a dealer just run down to a big box store and pour standard conventional oil into these cars? What exactly is a Group 3 or Group 4 oil?
It comes down to the extreme physics of modern engines. High performance and luxury vehicles use intense compression ratios, turbochargers, and they generate immense heat. If you put conventional oil into that environment, the extreme RPMs will literally shear the oil apart at a molecular level.
Ouch.
It breaks down, loses its viscosity, and destroys the engine. Group 3 and Group 4 are heavily synthesized base stocks specifically engineered to withstand that exact trauma. If a dealer doesn't use these exact manufacturer-approved synthetic oils, they just instantly void the customer's warranty.
Okay, so they absolutely need this specific synthetic base. Where does it come from, and why is it suddenly disappearing?
It is a perfect storm of global choke points. First, disruptions around the Strait of Hormuz are severely constraining maritime flows.
Okay, shipping issues.
Right. Second, South Korea, which is a massive producer of these base oils, has imposed mandatory export caps to protect their own domestic supply.
Oh, wow.
And third, Shell's Pearl GTL plant in Qatar suffered unexpected facility damage.
So if you're the new owner of that Beverly Hills Mercedes dealership we talked about earlier, what keeps you up at night more right now? A 25% tariff spiking the sticker price of the cars on your lot, or the fact that you might not even have the oil to do their first service appointment?
It's a nightmare scenario, and to make matters worse, the refining economics are working against the auto industry. Because of other global pressures, refiners are actually prioritizing the creation of standard diesel and fuels over these highly specialized base oils, just because the margins and demand for fuel are easier to capture right now.
Can we quantify how bad the shortage actually is? Like, put a number on it?
The Independent Lubricant Manufacturers Association, ILMA, they estimate that nearly 3/4 of U.S. Group 3 imports are currently under stress.
3/4.
Yeah.
If 75% of your premium oil supply is at risk, you are facing an existential crisis in the service bay.
The immediate implication is massive service delays and huge price hikes. The reporting suggests this will hit supercar-dense, wealthy areas like Los Angeles, London, and Monte Carlo the hardest.
But when does it end?
That's the painful part. What this doesn't answer is when maritime risks will subside and when South Korea's export limits might actually ease to normalize the supply.
Let's weave all these invisible threads together. If I am looking at the macro picture of everything we just discussed, the overriding theme seems to be a massive, industry-wide return to pragmatism.
Pragmatism is the perfect word for it. We see it clearly in the consumer data. Buyers are ignoring the EV hype and returning to the practical aerodynamic efficiency of hybrid sedans like you saw with the Honda and Toyota data.
Right.
But we also see it in the boardroom. Mega dealers are abandoning the ego-driven model of putting a dealership on every single corner. Group 1 divesting their Beverly Hills lot, and Evans Halshaw consolidating multiple brands into one UK retail park that is pure operational pragmatism.
But there is a massive tension hidden in that real estate strategy. I mean, the high-end luxury market is clearly the most coveted prize. Fletcher Jones is desperate to dominate luxury in Southern California. Yet, that exact luxury segment is the most fragile. It is uniquely vulnerable to both the international vehicle tariffs we talked about and those high-end synthetic oil shortages.
It is the ultimate paradox. The higher the margin on the vehicle, the more delicate its supply chain. And that highlights another severe contradiction we uncovered: the friction between a borderless business ambition and a bordered reality.
Explain that.
Well, dealerships and automakers are trying to achieve frictionless global scale, pulling in emerging brands from across the world like Chery and Omoda into unified megasites.
Right.
But simultaneously, national borders are aggressively slamming shut, whether that is South Korea hoarding base oils or the U.S. threatening 25% import tariffs. Plus, you have automakers who have spent billions pushing a pivot to electric vehicles, but the retail data shows a stubborn consumer preference pulling back toward traditional hybrid sedans.
The boardroom wants a globalized, electrified future, but the geopolitics and the driveway reality are demanding something entirely different. So if you are listening to this, what is the practical takeaway? What do they do?
Operating on autopilot is over. The era of assuming parts, oil, and vehicles will just seamlessly appear is done. Dealers have to aggressively pre-book their service supplies and physically pivot their floor plans to match the reality of hybrid sedan demand.
And for the buyers.
Buyers must proactively verify OEM oil availability before they ever drop their car off for a service appointment and legally brace for sudden price shocks on anything imported from Europe.
Which brings us to the end of this segment of Auto News Talk. We have mapped the boardrooms, the showrooms, and the global shipping lanes, and the picture is incredibly clear. In an industry obsessed with the vehicle of tomorrow, survival actually comes down to mastering the logistics, the real estate, and the hybrid sedans of today.
It requires absolute vigilance at every level of the supply chain.
So, your next step is simple but critical. Check the manufacturer approvals on your next scheduled oil change. Ensure your service center actually has the specific fluids your engine requires. And take a drive past your local mega dealership. Keep a close eye on how they're physically reorganizing their brands on the asphalt. The invisible shifts are happening right in front of us, if you know where to look. Thank you for joining Auto News Talk. Keep your eyes on the road.